Derek Brunson is now ranked at number 4 at middleweight following his victory over Kevin Holland this past weekend at UFC Vegas number 22. Before the rankings came out, Brunson was ranked at number 7. Holland was ranked at number 10. Brunson now leaps over Jack Hermansson, Marvin Vettori, and Darren Till to be up at number 4. Does Derek Brunson deserve to be number 4 at middleweight in the UFC official rankings? Matt, I'm going to start with you. Yay or nay?
I'm going to say nay. I'm going to say nay because to jump 3 spots, generally I would think you would have to beat someone already ahead of you, like in a solid position. And I don't think Kevin Holland was that guy. I guess a lot of the panelists here who, turn in their rankings were really impressed with his wrestling ability. So they were maybe kind of thinking of like a little bit of a Habib sort of thing. Like, man, this guy went out there and dominated and out wrestled his opponent, for 5 rounds. Like how often do we see that in the middleweight division? Super impressive stuff. At the same time, his opponent wasn't doing everything he could to get up. He was more interested in talking, but that's another story for another day. But to jump 3 spots like that over the names that he jumped over, I wouldn't quite go that far as deserving. I mean, I could see him jumping over maybe one of them, but all 3 of these guys, that's a stretch for me. I would wait to see what he does in his next outing against whoever he gets paired with. But coming in at number 4, jumping over Till, Vettori, and Hermansson in that order is a little bit wild to me.
Drake, you agree or disagree?
It's surprising. It's a little bit wild, but actually I don't think it's kind of as crazy as I thought it was until I really looked at it here now. And I agree, and I'm fine with him jumping over Hermansson and Till. I think that is fine. But Vettori, I think he should be right behind him. And I can kind of understand the argument a little bit more when looking at both of their 4-fight winning streaks, because they're both on 4-fight winning streaks, and they're pretty similar in terms of the level of competition. And Derek Brunson actually has more top, ranked wins, I believe, assuming that Heinisch was ranked at the time that they fought. So when you look at it that way, and comparing who they beat and how they beat them, it's the how they beat them that kind of, I think, changes things for me and why Vettori should be ahead. And if we're looking at this last fight specifically for Brunson, he beat the number 10 guy. Yes, dominated him. It was an impressive win. He won all 5 rounds, in my opinion. Was never really he was in some danger early on, but I don't know. I feel like the win could have been more impressive. And then you look at what Vettori just did, a phenomenal fight, a fight of the year candidate, not the winner or anything, but, it was a very, very good fight, a middleweight, I don't want to say classic necessarily, but a very, very good fight against a guy who higher ranked than Kevin Holland was and Jack Hermansson. And I think Jack Hermansson probably would beat Kevin Holland too if we're going to play that game. But, if we're going to look at what they did most recently, Hermansson's win over Hermansson, I think, still holds more weight than, yes, a Kevin Holland who just won 5 fights last year. But again, if you want to look at level of competition and who he beat, how we beat them, that kind of thing, I just still give Vettori the slight edge. But I see the argument a little bit more now, and it's a lot closer than I realized when I first saw this, today. But I just feel like you got to give it the edge to Vettori because of, if you're going to go strictly off of rankings and what they did in their last fight, it's 10 versus what, Hermansson was 6 or 5 when Vettori beat him. Like, come on, come on.
Yeah, you touched on something there that is in my opinion, one of the fatal flaws in the ranking system, right? Is if you look at the one connection to most of these rankings, it's Kelvin Gastelum, right? Hermansson beat Gastelum to get up to where he was. And then Till beat Gastelum to get up to where he was. I mean, it's one of those things where last 4 fights, Brunson has the most ranked opponents beaten. And I would say it's very close, but I would say on par, or I would actually maybe rank it even a little bit ahead of Vettori's last 4 or so, even though he is also on a 4-fight win streak. I mean, if you look at that, I totally understand why somebody might rank Brunson where you rank Brunson at number 4. But doing it now, right? But the truth is Brunson probably should have been ranked higher at some point, but because he fought, Heinisch when he was number 11 or 12, because he fought Shabazian when he was, I think, 9 or 8, it's all based on previous ranking spots. That's the only way he got higher. So to do it now just seems completely strange. I'm not pissed about it in the sense of, oh, Brunson doesn't deserve to be at number 4. I'm pissed about it in the sense of, why in the world is he number 4 after beating Kevin Holland, who was number 10? And that, it just doesn't make sense. So I'm with you in that at least Vettori should probably still be ahead of him. I would still argue that everyone that he's jumped, Till, Hermansson, should still be ahead of him. Maybe you could go ahead and do Till, but based on rankings, based on the ranked guys that he's fought, and the way that the system has worked up until now, Brunson should not be number 4. It's just the way the rankings are. I don't know how we necessarily fix it either, because of, you never really know how good someone is when you're fighting them if they're coming up, right? It's tough. So let us know in the comments if you think Derek Brunson deserves to be at number 4. If you were shocked by him jumping up that far, if you think he deserves it, doesn't, let us know. His performance, all of that, does performance count into it? I think that's a big one, is the way he beat people. Should that affect the rankings, or should it just be the fact that he beat someone with a number next to them and then should be moved accordingly? What's your thoughts on the ranking system on Derek Brunson moving up to number 4? Give a like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Boys, before we get out of here, I mean, do we expect to see more of this? Any last thoughts on this type of thing?
I will say that I could see the voters perhaps being swayed by this overall new look Derek Brunson, right? The blonde bomber, as I like to call him now. He's undefeated with the blonde hair, right? And he's shown the evolution in his game. I think the Holland versus Brunson fight, if this took place back in 2017, be completely different, because he was just wild and reckless back then, where he would just charge forward, chin up in the air, swinging hooks like crazy. And now we have the more reserved, more calculated Derek Brunson that is trying to ensure he wins fights, and do so in a smarter fashion. And I think that's probably one of the things that was probably taken into account here with the rankings. The only other guy I can kind of give that credit to that he passed would be Vettori. I haven't seen that sort of evolution in Till or Hermansson at this point. Vettori has kind of taken on a different look in his game over recent outings as well. But still, like I like what Pat was saying about he should have been there before this fight, because like I said, the win over Holland doesn't really do that for me. I know that Holland won 5 fights last year, so everybody was hyped up on that. But still, it was like, the level of competition, all that kind of stuff like that. It was impressive to win 5 fights in a calendar year for sure. But when you face a guy in Derek Brunson who's only lost to elites, what does that really, do for Derek Brunson at the end of the day? For a guy that in Kevin Holland is still on the come up. So I don't know. I think that's just one of the things that could have come into play here, considering his new look and the undefeated streak with the blonde hair now.
Definitely could have. Drake, and any final words or thoughts on that? You think it's because of blonde bomber? You think it's because of the blonde bomber?
No, I don't know about that. Definitely helps, I suppose, kind of a new leaf of sorts. But I like what you guys have been saying about he should have been here already, because I fully agree with that, or, at least higher up than he was. Because for me, the combination of performance and winning streaks are very important in how you rank people, in my opinion. So when you look at it already, prior to this fight, guy was on a 3-fight winning streak, and, solid performances there in those fights, as opposed to Jack Hermansson and Darren Till, who have, Hermansson is 1-2 in his last 3. Till is 1-3 in his last 4. Of course, one of those was at welterweight. So then if you look at welterweight fights, Excuse me. Well, there was the Masvidal one as well. Either way, they have not been winning very much. So Brunson should have been ahead of them prior to this because of the streak that he's gone on. And now with 4 in a row competing for the other guy with a 4-fight winning streak, yeah, they should have been right next to each other the whole time. And so it is what it is. And maybe they're just kind of looking more into that and didn't realize that Brunson was on such a, a longer streak than the guys who were ranked around him. But yeah, for me, I like, that's what I look at a lot for the rankings.
Yeah, makes sense to me. But I mean, I guess the one thing that I've learned from this is that if you haven't beat Kelvin Gastelum, you just can't get that high up in the rankings, man. Go out and beat Kelvin Gastelum, Derek. You'll be number 1 by the end of the day. There you go.